Hey, welcome to another episode of View of Hoops. Today with me I have my friend Rob, the Bitcoin Baron, and today we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Hey Rob, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Alright, so what exactly is Bitcoin?
So the first thing you have to understand is it's a digital currency. It's completely online. There's no physical Bitcoin. There's no central authority for Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin bank, Bitcoin CEO. Everybody is their own banker in a sense.
Okay, that being said, is that even legal?
Completely legal. Right now anyways. Canada, for example, just recently passed laws regarding how it's to be taxed and have required exchanges to have money issuing licenses or money transfer licenses. Essentially regulations on how it's supposed to operate.
Alright, okay. But, how did Bitcoin come about? Is there an actual creator,
There is.
Okay, does he have a name or something?
Yeah, it's a pseudo-anonymous creator. He went by Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows if it's a single person or a group of people, perhaps. He developed the white paper and Bitcoin's initial code, if you will. And over time, more and more developers jumped on board, and he slowly pulled back. At this point, no one's heard from him in a while. There was a Newsweek article, actually, a couple of months back. They speculated on poor guy. They thought he was him simply because he was named Dorian Satoshi, or Dorian Nakamoto Satoshi. But anyways, turns out it's not him. No one knows who the real creator is.
Okay. But, so he made this coin. So what stops people from, making their own coin? Can't they just forge a coin?
No.
I get this question a lot when I try and explain Bitcoin to them.
Yeah, it's a very common question when you explain Bitcoin to somebody. They think, well, can't somebody just steal all the Bitcoins or make their own? The only way you make your own is by mining. And there's plenty of people to compete with for that. That is how Bitcoins are made. It's protected by the same type of security your bank would use, or a lot of common websites. It uses a private key and a public key.
Okay.
So you can think of it like a password split into two. In order to access the coins or send the coins, you have to have that private key. Only the owner of the wallet has it. Yeah. Everybody knows the public key. It's your address, actually, your Bitcoin address.
Yeah, I heard about some dude throwing out his hard drive and he had a whole bunch of Bitcoin on it.
Yeah, that's actually Bitcoin's greatest weakness right now, is the technical skill needed to run it. A lot of people I mention it to, they think, I can't picture my grandma having a Bitcoin wallet, because you're responsible for your own security as well. Your Bitcoins are stored in a wallet file on your computer. If your computer dies, hard drive crashes or goes in a fire, and you don't have a proper backup of that, there's no way to recover those Bitcoins. They're gone forever.
I've heard of storing it online via website.
Which, the one who...
There's a bunch of websites out there that offer online Bitcoin wallets.
Yes, that's a different type of wallet. Okay, so there's something to understand is that there's different types of Bitcoin wallets you could get, offering different levels of security. So there's the standard Bitcoin client. If you went to Bitcoin's website and you downloaded the standard Bitcoin wallet, that's your plain Jane wallet. There's also sites, I don't really use them, so I'm not too familiar with them, but essentially they will generate wallets for you if you wanted a vanity wallet. Not necessarily the best idea for security, but you could generate something like one Matt Hoops. Everything starts with a 1 for their addresses. So one Matt Hoops or something along those lines.
Oh, okay. Besides storing it, so how do you even get Bitcoin or make it? I see people offering, they take payment as Bitcoin, but how do you even obtain this Bitcoin? You can't go to a bank and be like, hey, I need $80 of Bitcoin, or a currency exchange place.
Not yet. You can't go to a bank yet for it. But there's two ways to get Bitcoin. You can either mine it, which is how it's created, or you can purchase it from somebody else. Bitcoins just get passed around in a sense, so if you spend it somewhere, well, that place is likely going to sell it on an exchange or trade it to somebody else. So they get passed around.
So Bitcoin is kind of like a stock, essentially?
It's better to think of it like a commodity. So kind of like a stock, but I wouldn't call it a stock.
Because I notice it goes up and down. It's at something like $647 per one right now.
Yeah, for an entire Bitcoin, it's about 620, I believe, American, last I checked. But it fluctuates.
So you're saying it's traded in fractions?
You could trade up to 8 decimal points after a Bitcoin, so you could have 0.00000001. I might have missed a zero. But anyways.
That's okay.
Yeah. You can trade it to small fractions. So that's something people point out. If ever, and I'm not saying it will happen, but if ever Bitcoin was worth $1 million, you wouldn't have to buy an entire Bitcoin to use it. You can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin in order to get the amount you need.
Okay, that translates into
It's
real
value.
life currency.
Yeah, it's value.
I hate to use the term real life currency because it seems
Fiat
like
currency.
Bitcoin's like fake.
Well, fiat currency is usually what it's referred to when you speak of US dollars or Canadian dollars. But yeah, you're converting it one way or the other, and its price is based on what people are willing to pay for it. Just like anything else, it's what people believe it's worth.
Okay, so its worth is imaginary.
I wouldn't say imaginary. For example, a lot of people say, okay, supply and demand decides the prices for regular commodities. We're talking about a loaf of bread or whatever it is.
All right.
For example, your dollar, your American dollar, your Canadian dollar, it only has value because people believe in it, because it's backed by a promise, by a government that says, by law, a business has to accept it as legal tender. That's what legal tender is.
Yeah.
You're forced to accept it. Bitcoin isn't legal tender. No business is forced to accept it. So when you say its value is imaginary, I wouldn't go that far. It's like I said, it's what people are willing to pay for it.
Okay.
And again, supply and demand also comes into effect. If everyone's buying Bitcoin and no one's really willing to sell them, then the price goes up because, again,
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so I could see that fluctuations. Let's get into pooling. I heard this pooling, or the difference in, or mining. That you mentioned that earlier.
We'd probably go back to mining, what mining is, and actually
Okay.
how Bitcoin works before we even get into mining. So like I said before, Bitcoin's a digital currency. It's completely online. It's a decentralized currency, which is another key point for this. So every person running the Bitcoin wallet is participating in the Bitcoin network. Every person running that wallet, you have what's called the blockchain. And the blockchain is the key point of this. It's basically like a ledger. It's a history of every Bitcoin transaction that's ever taken place. So everybody can see everybody else's transactions. Not that your name's tied to an address. It's just you can follow coins.
Okay.
Back to creating Bitcoins. If you wanted to create a Bitcoin, you have to mine them. Mining is essentially a way of processing transactions. When you want to send a Bitcoin from one address to another, you broadcast that out to the network by encrypting a message with your private key. So you can think of it like solving a Sudoku puzzle. These transactions go out there, and a miner grabs some and creates what's called a block.
Okay.
And essentially it's a group of transactions, and they try and solve essentially a Sudoku puzzle. They take all these guesses per second, millions of guesses per second. When it solves it, it yells to the network, hey, I found a solution.
Okay.
You're basically racing against everybody else to find the solution first.
Okay, and you use basically a program, like you're not
A mining program.
You're not trying to figure out mathematical equations.
You don't do it yourself. No, you set it, forget it. But again, once you solve this block, let's say you're the first one to find a solution in that period of time, you yell it to the network, hey, I solved a block, and here's the hash, if you will. Think of it like a Sudoku puzzle. There's only one correct way to solve this.
Spoke some good hash once. But anyways.
So when you're the first one, you get awarded as well a mining reward. And that's decreased over time. Initially, it was 50 Bitcoins every time you solved a block. And as time goes on, that block reward halves. It cuts in half, so now it's 25.
Okay.
And it steadily declines till eventually no more Bitcoins will be created. That's estimated to be in about the year 2140. That's how, it tapers off.
So 2140, that's still a long ways away.
Yes. Now, keep in mind, 21 million maximum Bitcoins will ever be created. I believe it's over 11 million have been created, though, so far. So a large portion have already been made or mined.
Okay.
And as production tapers off, less and less coins get created. So, again, back to mining, that's how they're created. When you solve a block, you're rewarded coins. They come out of thin air, essentially. You could say no one awards it to you. The network essentially awards it to you.
So wouldn't you think mining would be more profitable in the future as no more Bitcoin would be created? You think mining would go down, but if no one mined, then the transactions would not be processed.
You got it. If no one was mining, then transactions wouldn't process. But I don't think you're ever going to see that problem. Bitcoin, like I said, there's plenty to be mined still. And the other part of mining also is called transaction fees. Right now, they're pretty small. I believe it's 0.02 or 0.002. There could actually be an extra zero there. Again, can't remember off the top of my head.
I've been dabbling in pool. I got 0.08.
0.08 total, or are you talking about 7 zeros, 8?
No, 0.08.
0.08, okay. Yeah, so it's a nice little chunk. But again, what I'm getting at is transaction fees are based on the amount you're sending. The more Bitcoin you're sending, and actually, I should back up, really. The way Bitcoins are stored in that ledger is there are transactions. Transactions ins and transaction out. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when you solve that block and you get awarded 25 Bitcoins, that's one transaction in.
Okay.
So the way the record would hold it is Matt received 25 Bitcoins in one shot. When you go to send those to someone else, let's say you go to send them 5 Bitcoins, that person will have a new transaction in for 5 Bitcoins.
Okay.
That's what kind of gets tracked.
Okay.
All right, so like I was saying, those 5 Bitcoins would become a new transaction in for that person receiving them. At the same time, it's also a weird change address, they call it. The way the transaction will be read is you send him the entire 25 Bitcoins, he sends you back 20. Now, this automatically happens. There's no way to change this. There's no way. It's part of the transaction.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, it's a bit weird to think about because now your initial transaction, when you mine that block and you got that 25 in transaction, now it's changed. Now you have a 25 out and a 20 in. I'm hoping I'm not losing people with the way that kind of works. It gets confusing.
Yeah, you essentially send him everything you have, and then he sends you back your change, takes what he wants, and sends you back your change.
Essentially, you don't send him everything in your wallet. It'll send the smallest transaction in that it can send.
Oh, okay.
So you got it. If you had one transaction of 5 Bitcoins, another one for 10, and you're trying to send someone 2, it'll use the 5 transaction. It's not going to send the entire amount.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, the reason I'm getting on that is because these transactions also count. They'll also pay fees. You'll pay transaction fees based on the amount you're sending, the size of the transaction. So now if I go to send you 5 Bitcoins, let's say, and I earned 0.01, 0.01, 0.01 over time, it's going to be a huge block. It's going to be a huge, in terms of its data size in kilobytes. The bigger that block, the bigger transaction fee I'm going to have to pay. Transaction fees are what's going to keep it going after every Bitcoin has been mined.
Okay.
So it's a way to pay the miners for their work. And right now it's a minuscule amount. It's not really worth anything.
Yeah, I know. I've kind of been dabbling into it, getting prepped for this interview. So, what can you use Bitcoin for? So once you acquire it,
that's what's getting really neat. The past year, it's really, really picked up. A lot more businesses are accepting it. Places like Tiger Direct, Newegg, Overstock.com, even Expedia.ca, or Expedia, I guess, just Expedia.
Yeah.
They started accepting it as well. So if you want to travel and so on, book your hotels, that's another option.
Okay, so they accept Bitcoin. What else can it be used for? Like, well, you obviously see the stuff on the news, like Silk Road and stuff like that.
There are some. I mean, yeah, you could use it for anything technically. So yeah, Silk Road was a website where users paid for drugs or whatever
services. I saw Hitman services.
Yeah, there was all sorts of craziness going on, and it was all paid for in Bitcoin because it's anonymous, right? If you're buying drugs, for example, from a drug dealer, you're probably not going to want to give them your credit card number. Bitcoin, on the other hand, you don't require that trust. That's why it was so attractive for them. So it can be used for good things and bad things. There's just like cash. I mean, technically, you could pay a hitman with cash.
Yeah, I guess so.
So,
I'd imagine all those hitmen would be like FBI's.
You're probably going to get a sting operation, yeah. So yeah, a lot of places are accepting. It's becoming a lot more accepted. I forget how many. I think there were over 40,000 businesses accepting it now. Little mom and pop shops, all sorts of places, because it doesn't cost you anything to accept, or next to nothing to accept.
Okay.
And that's actually one of the big advantages. If you're a retail merchant and you're accepting credit cards, you're typically paying anywhere between 2-3% in fees for all your credit card transactions. So if you accept $100, you're paying $2 or $3. your profit margin on that item might have been 4 or 5%, or even 6%. There goes a huge chunk, if not half, of your profit margin.
To a credit card company.
To a credit card company. Now, if you're using Bitcoin, you're paying next to nothing. You can use a service like BitPay. So this way here, you as a merchant don't even have to touch Bitcoin. You never even have to have a wallet. What BitPay will do is they will accept the Bitcoin on your behalf and pay you the cash equivalent immediately. They will bother selling it on the exchange or holding it or whatever they want to do with it. So this way here, you as a business can accept Bitcoin, and they typically charge, if I'm not mistaken, it was something like $30 for up to a certain amount or a small percentage.
Okay.
Very, very small. Much, much less than you pay on a credit card company.
Like something like 0.0 something.
I believe it was 0.02%. Again, don't quote me on that. I haven't checked in a while.
But that's your guesstimate.
But again, it was those kind of numbers. Very, very small compared to credit card companies. And again, if you're dealing in online transactions, it's very easy to accept. Another big point for merchants is chargebacks. If you're a merchant, you accept credit cards, that client can turn around and file a chargeback with their credit card company. I believe some of them have up to 6 months.
Okay.
So within 6 months, that guy could file a chargeback, even though he's committing fraud, and you've got to then fight it and prove that you shipped the items and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, with Bitcoin, there is no chargebacks.
No,
it's final.
It's gone, it's gone.
That's right. Once you send it, that's it. There is no, like I said, no Bitcoin company. There's nothing you can do to really get it back. Now, again, if you were dealing with a company like Overstock or whoever, you would actually be able to have a paper trail to show, look, I sent the Bitcoin to this address, and that's what's great about the ledger. Everybody has a copy of that transaction.
Ah, I see.
So
how can you view this ledger?
Actually, there's blockchain explorers, is what you'll see. And what they do is they just have the transactions listed. So you can put up any block number. I could type in, look for block number 200,000. And it'll show me what transactions are going from what addresses to what addresses. And you'll see the raw format. So you'll see the transaction ins being spent and the returns coming back, that change coming back. So you can actually track coins. If someone had some coins and they sent them somewhere, and you can follow where they're sent.
So let's say, can't they be traced back to you? You said it was anonymous.
Well, it's kind of pseudo-anonymous. It is anonymous in the sense that if I give you Bitcoins, right, if I pay for an online service, there's no way my name's tied to any of that. Well, not depending on where I'm buying from.
Essentially a wallet number.
That's right. But mind you, if I go to an exchange, most of them have know your customer laws or know your client laws, where they have to ask for identification. So Vault of Satoshi's, for example, a Canadian exchange you can use, and they'll ask for ID. They'll ask for a driver's license or passport. They want proof of residence, all sorts of proof that you are who you say you are. So this way here, I mean, again, those are the laws in place now. And that's actually a good thing. It's regulation for an exchange. So in that sense, it's not anonymous. But again, if I send it to you privately, I come to your house, Matt, and I buy something from you. I just send you Bitcoin from my wallet to your wallet. There's no names tied to those.
It's true.
So in that sense,
essentially like cash.
In that sense, yeah. Everybody sees the transaction, but nobody knows who's behind that transaction.
Okay. So there's still some protections in place.
Yep, and that's where some of the innovations coming in with these altcoins. Altcoins are like Bitcoins.
So like short for alternative coin.
Correct.
So like copycats of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as calling them copycats. There are a lot of coins that are clones that don't offer anything new. Some of them just offer small changes, and they think that's a major thing. So maybe a shorter transaction time or a different algorithm. Some of them are doing some amazing things, and that's what I was getting to with anonymity in transactions. So some coins like Darkcoin or Monero are implementing features for anonymous transactions.
Okay.
So this way here, you can send your coins to somebody, and they can't be tracked. Because that's something people have joked about, saying, well, all your transactions are Bitcoin on Bitcoin network are being tracked by the NSA or any other government,
exactly.
right? They
That's
can.
what I was kind of going for my conspiracy friends out there.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how paranoid you are, and I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the data's right there. All you have to do is install the Bitcoin client, and you've got a copy of the blockchain. I mean, it doesn't take any real work to do this. But again, you don't know whose addresses are whose, and you can generate new ones all the time.
Yeah, at the click of a button.
Click of a button.
I guess so. Well, so you're saying there's altcoins. So like I've seen one on the news and all over the internet, Kanye coin.
Yeah, that was a
Had
joke.
Kanye's West face. There's other
He was
kinds
pissed.
like
He was pissed.
he was pissed over that.
He didn't like it.
No.
No.
Why? His face is on money. Why?
I don't think he looked at it that way, but
I'm a genius. I'm Benjamin Franklin.
yeah, I mean, I would love it if I had a coin with my face on it, but sure, he didn't appreciate it.
Oh, I'd love that hoops coin.
Yeah, you could make one. It's easy enough to do now.
Why not?
There are hundreds of altcoins.
I will probably not make a hoops coin though. I'm pretty lazy. But there's other coins like which ones have like actual good value? I heard Dogecoin. Does that have good value?
Dogecoin's a neat coin in the sense that it gained a lot of its value from the community, just the people behind it. And they've done a lot of cool things, like they had a sponsorship for a Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics.
Really? Dogecoin was...
Yeah, they sponsored a Jamaican bobsled team.
I was excited, but I didn't actually see them slay at all.
Actually, no, I didn't see it either, but it's the idea behind it.
But I heard about it, and I was like, oh, Jamaica got a bobsled.
Yeah, and they also had a NASCAR funding. They funded Josh Wise, I believe it was, for a NASCAR race. Really neat thing. I think it was something like $50,000 they donated to get this guy to drive. He had, I forget what you call it, but essentially the pictures on the car, the funding logos, and that was a bunch of pictures of the sheepdog.
I want to get sponsored by Dogecoin.
You know what? Ask the community. You'd be surprised. They're amazingly generous. It's a tipping coin. They're very social about it. It's had a bit of... Again, there's always people that harp on it and say it's just a joke, it won't go anywhere. So when the price has come down lately on Dogecoin, but again, on all coins, well, a lot of altcoins have been taking a shit lately.
Well, I'd imagine because there's that big establisher, right? BitCoin.
Everybody wants Bitcoin, yeah. But a lot of people that are, I don't want to say late to the party, but that missed out on Bitcoin and they want to ride the next big thing. So
yeah, because like, that's kind of what I want to do. Like, I don't make much.
Well, a lot of new coins are coming out, and everyone's trying to say, well, this coin's going to be the next big thing, and trying to get people to buy into it. So you got to be careful, because, again, there's hundreds of coins out there, and a lot of them offer nothing new. They will literally copy and paste the source code and maybe just rename a few things.
Okay.
Like, it's a kind of a Wild West. It's kind of amazing and scary at the same time. You could lose all your money if you're not careful. And at the same time, you can make a good fortune.
What's like the most have you heard of someone making off of just Bitcoin?
I couldn't really give you a specific number. I know there's tons of people that have bought in
or claim
500
to make like millions.
Oh, there are people that have made their millions. Yeah, people that have made hundreds of thousands. People that have bought in apartments or all sorts of vehicles. I think it was Tesla. I think you could buy with Bitcoin, and someone went and bought a Tesla. Someone else sold a Ferrari privately for Bitcoin. Like, there's all sorts of things that people have bought with them, and all sorts of success stories with Bitcoin.
I'm going to interject. If I was an average user, and I'm somebody that wants to get involved in this kind of stuff, is it worth me as a solo person to actually do this, or am I kind of wasting my time? So say if I'm an everyday Joe that wants to sit there and get into this, like, say, Hoops wants to do, how would I go about it? Is it really worth me kind of doing my own thing on my computer? And do I have to spend thousands of dollars to get going?
You're talking about mining specifically?
Yes.
Mining's a very difficult thing to get into. Bitcoin specifically, I would advise against it, unless you've got tons and tons of money to spend, and you can maybe get an ASIC manufacturer to give you the first batch or get you an early batch.
What does ASIC stand for?
Damn it. Application Specific Integrated Circuit, if I had to guess, but I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, you got it, buddy.
Okay.
I just wanted you to say it.
Okay, good enough. So yeah, ASICs are, I might want to back up, I guess, give you a bit of the history on it. When you first started mining Bitcoin or any of these coins, it was all with CPUs, your regular desktop Pentium 4s and whatnot. And then as things got more and more competitive, people developed miners for video cards and FPGAs, and eventually ASICs became manufactured.
So an ASIC, like I kind of looked it up, is essentially jamming a bunch of graphics cards into a motherboard?
No. An ASIC is a specifically made device. It's made for one purpose. So if you get a Bitcoin miner, an ASIC, it's made to mine Bitcoin and nothing else. If Bitcoin's algorithm changes for whatever reason, or if it crashed or whatever, you cannot use that for anything else.
Oh, okay.
It's made for one thing and one thing only, but it does it extremely well. When ASICs came out, they were in the order of thousands of times more powerful than the video cards that were out, and they drew less power.
Okay.
Power consumption from video cards can get crazy. Myself, I had 3 miners running, and I heated my apartment with the windows open and the power off all winter.
Oh,
it
wow.
it was amazing. But unfortunately, summer rolls around, I have to shut them off, actually. It's just too warm. And that's where ASICs come in. They use a lot less power, a lot less heat, and they work a lot harder.
So ASICs, how do you just go about building one, or can you acquire one?
Well, actually, you could buy some of the chips. Some of the manufacturers will sell you the chips in batches, but definitely you're not going to do that unless you got tons of money to throw into this, and you're actually going to make your own ASICs to resale. Most people just buy one, and there's all types. You can buy USB miners. They're just literally a USB thumbstick, and it's a miner. And then you can buy big boxes that are made to be powered with 2,000 watts.
Are the USB miners profitable?
Typically, no. The reason I say that is because by the time you get an ASIC, it's usually too late. One of the things I should mention about Bitcoin mining, it's like I mentioned before, it's a fixed rate of growth. Only so many Bitcoins are generated, and right now it's a 10-minute confirmation window. It means it takes on average 10 minutes for someone to mine a block.
Yeah.
The more people that start mining, the harder it gets. The difficulty increases. The puzzle is more complex. It adjusts to try and keep it at 10 minutes. Less people mine, the puzzle becomes simpler. It always tries to keep 10 minutes between blocks.
Oh, okay.
That's a neat design concept. So anyways, when you're mining, you get your ASIC, you're mining at a certain difficulty, and you might make, let's say, 0.1 a day for a week, and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. I'm going to make back profit in no time. Next thing you know, the difficulty adjusts, and 5 million other people have their own ASICs kicking on. All of a sudden, the difficulty doubles or triples. Just like that, you're making a fraction or a third of what you were making before.
Okay.
The difficulty's been skyrocketing ever since last year, and ASIC manufacturers typically have a reputation of taking your money as a pre-order. So they'll tell you, we're going to sell you this amazing new ASIC that would, if you had it right now, you'd be rich. But we're not going to have it for 6 months. We're going to take your money before we've even built the thing, and we're promising you to ship it on this date. We've never actually assembled anything yet. When we get these things, a lot of them will run them for several weeks. Part of testing, right? They'll call it quality assurance, testing them.
Okay.
What they're doing is they're mining with them, though, and they will make tons of money because they're the first ones to have them. Nobody else has them yet. They haven't shipped any. They mine with them for a few weeks as testing, then they ship it to you. By the time you get it in the door, the second batch is already up mining. The difficulty's already gone up from their previous weeks of mining. You'll never hit return on investment. Well, it's very hard to hit return.
Okay.
Not impossible, I shouldn't say that, but it's difficult. You have to plan accordingly, do your math.
Okay, so instead of solo mining, I'm guessing
Pooled mining's the way to go.
pooled mining, so that's getting a bunch of people together as buddies, a social network, essentially.
Well, it doesn't have to be buddies. So when normally you'd solo mine, you're mining by yourself. Mining against the wall. You're mining against the world, is how I would put it.
Yeah.
When you work in a pool, the way it works is there's a central wallet, if you will, that you're all technically working against. And they're just taking those blocks and they're breaking them up into chunks. And they pass out the work to everybody. And as people complete them, if you solve a block, let's say, or you successfully gain some coins, it gets spread out across everybody based on how much work they're doing.
Oh, okay.
So you, Matt Hoops, could mine in a pool and not actually solve a block for weeks, yet still get what you would have earned in that time. It eliminates the variance. That's the goal. So if you had enough hash rate to say, let's say, mine a block per day, you might get unlucky if you're solo mining, and you might not mine a block for several days. At the same time, you might get really lucky one day and hit 4 blocks in a day. So you want to eliminate that usually, and that's why pooled mining is nice. You'll get a nice steady payout every day. You work as a team. You tend to make more. And that's also kind of a problem with some of the big pools that are nearing that 51% hash rate.
True, right?
Yeah, you don't want any one person to have control of the network more than 51%. It's not that they will commit a 51% attack, it's just they could. And just to quickly explain that, it's just if you own more than 51% of the network, you could try and or write your own blockchain and perform double spends.
Oh.
A double spend is where I send coin to somebody, let's say to pay for something.
All right.
And before that's finished confirming, it needs 6 confirmations before it's confirmed. Before it gets to that, I turn around and mine my own blocks. Since I've got 51% of the chance, or 51% of the network, I've got a 51% chance of hitting the next block. All I need to do is hit a couple in a row. And what I can do is reverse that transaction and send it to another wallet, maybe my own wallet. You, meanwhile, you get the transaction. Oh, cool, he sent me the coins. It's still unconfirmed, so maybe you send the item. Maybe hopefully it's not a shipped item. You would have time to obviously see that it failed. Yeah. But if it was, let's say, selling a game or whatever it is,
yeah.
All of a sudden, a couple of hours later, what the hell, the transaction disappears because he releases a block that's further along than the rest of the network. That in that block, he sends the coins to himself.
Okay, so it can essentially be stolen in the network.
Before it's confirmed. If you think of it that way, he sends a second transaction that gets confirmed before yours does. Like I said, it takes 6 blocks for a transaction to be confirmed. Okay. So when I say the blockchain, it's nice to think of it as a chain of blocks, literally. And the rule is the longest chain wins. So if you were to work on a chain in secret, if you will, private network, let's say, and you don't release blocks as you find them, you can just kind of hang on to them, and you form a blockchain longer than the current blockchain, you're able to actually release that at some point and just kind of overwrite what's happened since you started your chain. It's a little more complicated than that, and I could have some details a little bit wrong, but that's the gist of it.
Okay, but you'd have to be a little bit more tech savvy to do that.
You would have to have millions of dollars of equipment to do this, and a lot of luck, and not to mention, it's risky. There's no guarantee it's going to work. Yeah. You can send that transaction, let's say and again, if you want to do this, it's got to be worth it. If you're spending millions of dollars, you got to be hoping to get millions of dollars in that double spend. Okay. Every time you send it, you might still, that confirmation, or that transaction might go through 6 confirmations before you beat the blockchain, if you will. You could lose that money. So you're taking a chance even if you have 51%. Not to mention, if you've got that much money invested in Bitcoin hardware, why would you do something that would kill the network? A lot of faith would be destroyed if that happened.
Exactly.
You'd be shooting yourself in the foot, and again, extremely expensive.
Yeah, but there's lots of trolls out there probably wanting to bring down the Bitcoin network.
You would have to be a government. It would have to be a government, and again...
But I'm just talking to my ass, because I don't know, fuck all, I'm just a gamer.
Not saying it couldn't happen, but I doubt it.
Okay, so going back to where we were
Sorry.
before.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. I got sidetracked.
So on the basis that, say, I want to get a little ballsy just because I'm an individual that is not something of this nature, that's really familiar with this. This is completely, utterly out of my realm. Say if I want to sit there and go and invest some money on this, what would the average dollar spent to even so much make it worthwhile to get even a minor profit back? Am I looking a couple $100, a couple $1,000? Or am I kind of just better off just kind of not even wasting my money, so to speak?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. What I'd like to get to, like I said before, it's not profitable to mine Bitcoin itself if you're a small-time guy, average Joe. I'm talking about Bitcoin itself. But like we mentioned, there's altcoins. There are hundreds of them, and some of them are really neat. And those you can mine. They don't have the same algorithm as Bitcoin, so they can't use those Bitcoin ASICs. So when these new algorithms came out, so Script is the first one, the first big one, you had to use video cards up until recently. ASICs have just started coming out really the past couple of months, and it's turning into the same thing Bitcoin happened. You need an ASIC to compete.
Okay. So
if you wanted to mine, what I'm getting at is you could go out and buy a $100 ASIC right now. There's a Fury, a Gaumminer Fury is an excellent ASIC. It costs you about $100 or so right now. And the problem is when someone asks me, how long would it take me to make profit? Or how long would it take me to pay this off? It's an impossible question to answer because, for one, what coin are you mining? Like, are you mining a specific coin? If there's a certain coin you believe in, let's say we're talking about dark coin or black coin, whatever, you think, hey, this coin's amazing, it should be worth a lot more. You could mine that coin in a pool, whatever, save up a pile, and it might not be worth it within that month, but the next month that coin triples in value. All of a sudden you made your money back. It's very much hit and miss in the sense that you have to kind of bet on the right horse. You might pool mine and earn a certain amount and say within a week, hey, cool, I'm earning, like I said, 25% of my miner. I'm going to go buy a dozen of these things. By the time you get them, all of a sudden difficulties change, the prices have dropped. Now it's no longer as profitable. It might take you 6 months to make it back.
And you can't switch up those ASICs to mine another coin, right?
Well, you can, as long as it's that algorithm. That's what ASICs are made for. Like I said, the script algorithm is the most common one. There are hundreds of coins. So you could be mining Litecoin, let's say, and you see, okay, it's getting too difficult. I'm not making enough money. I'm going to mine Dogecoin or whatever other altcoin you have. You can use your ASIC for that, as long as it's a script coin. Now, a lot of people are against ASICs because they view it as you have to have the big money all of a sudden to stay in the game, and they want it to be distributed so that mom and pop with their regular PC can mine it.
Yeah, exactly.
But to be honest, that's not really accurate. It becomes a GPU war just like anything else.
Yeah, I guess so.
When ASIC started coming out for script, someone went ahead and made a coin or an algorithm script N. The memory requirements change every so often, meaning it's supposed to be impossible to make an ASIC. It's technically possible, but not really worth it. Your ASIC would have to change every 6 months.
Okay, so you'd always have to be upgrading it with parts and whatnot.
It would have to be designed to upgrade.
Oh, okay.
Which, again, probably not worth it. But what happened is, when that happened, all the GPU miners started running to those coins, like VertCoin. And what happened was, there's so many people mining it, even if you've got 10 video cards that are top-of-the-line video cards, you're still not going to earn very much. You're not going to earn your return anytime soon. So what I'm getting at is, even if a coin doesn't have an ASIC, or if there's no ASIC for that algorithm, doesn't mean that average Joe can mine it and make any decent money. There's still guys with GPU farms. There are guys who have literally a warehouse packed full of machines. And they pay for industrial air conditioning and electricity rates.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. If there's money to be made, people do it.
Of course.
So, again, not saying you can't get into mining, but if you do your research. And again, don't spend more than you can afford to lose. $100, most people can say, hey, what the hell, I can spend $100, I'll try this out. And even if I never make $100 out of it, at least I earn some coins, I can spend them, I can see what it's about. Experience it. Worst case, you're out $100.
Yeah.
Really.
It's only a $100 investment, it's not really that bad.
Exactly, and to be fair, ASICs, I can't say how long it'll last, but if your ASIC lasts you a year, you should get near your return on investment, or you should get a decent amount.
Yeah, it's based on luck, but I've noticed that, like, I've just kind of dabbled in the whole GPU mining of Bitcoin, which isn't very profitable. I've just been kind of looking at it, and I've already, like, done, 80...
Satoshis.
Satoshis?
Yeah, the smallest unit of measurement in Bitcoin is called a Satoshi.
Oh, it said share.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're share-based mining. That's the only way you'll ever mine Bitcoin without an entire warehouse of ASICs.
Okay.
And again, it's not worth it to mine Bitcoin directly. It's actually more profitable for you to mine an altcoin with your GPU and trade that for Bitcoin, which is what a lot of people that are mining these coins are doing.
Okay.
So it's an easy way to get Bitcoin with your computer hardware while not mining Bitcoin directly.
All right, so it's a little bit better, and then if it jumps up, then you can exchange it for more Bitcoin.
Correct. If the value goes up, and these coins are traded just like commodities. There are exchanges where people trade these like day traders. They bet on the price fluctuations, because a lot of these coins can fluctuate 25% on average a day. Sometimes I've seen coins go up 2,000% in an afternoon.
Oh, wow.
So, you got someone who puts in a Bitcoin, and all of a sudden, he's made 20 times that amount. He hasn't done it. You know what I mean? Just like a stock market, anything could blow up. A lot of these are like penny stocks. It's really amazing. It's a lot of fun.
Wow. I'd like to see a movie based on Bitcoin trading, like Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf of Bitcoin.
That's the other fun thing, is that there's really no rules around it. So you can have all sorts of like pump and dumps and all sorts of crazy stuff happen, and no one's really going to stop you. You can make your own coin, for example, and scam the heck out of a bunch of people, and you're not going to go to jail. So it encourages a lot of unethical behavior. And I mean, I kind of like it because I think that's amazing that people have that freedom. I would never
the
go
internet community. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, some people do it.
Love you, internet peoples.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I shouldn't laugh when people are scamming people. It's not nice, but at the same time, like I said, I love the fact that there's that freedom. There's that innovation happening, and anything can happen.
Yeah, like you said before, it's like the Wild Wild West, you know?
Yeah, that's right. You could bet $100 and end up making 10 grand if you were really lucky.
Or end up just getting shot
lose.
in the foot.
That's right. You could end up losing it. That coin could crash for whatever reason. So again, a lot of fun. I recommend most people, at least, if you don't want to mine it, you know what? Spend $100 or $50 even. Just buy some Bitcoin and play with it.
So
just to try it.
You were saying earlier that maybe banks might implement it. Like I could go to a bank.
I was joking. I don't think that. Well, I'm not saying it won't happen.
Well, you said the government are implementing rules behind it, sort of.
Yeah, well, there are rules, like I said, regulation being set for it, how it's supposed to be dealt with. But a lot of people view Bitcoin as the competitor to banks. That will take banks down. So the perception is that banks will be hostile to Bitcoin. Couldn't really tell. I couldn't tell you if banks are scared of it or not. I don't know.
So do you think there'd be like, you can walk into a corner store and buy Bitcoin?
There are Bitcoin ATMs. The closest one I believe is in Toronto. There's 2 of them, I think.
Really?
Yeah, where you can walk up with cash and buy some Bitcoin or sell your Bitcoin. And literally, just like an ATM, put your money in and pull it out. These are starting to pop up in any big cities. I'd love it for one to be in Sudbury.
Yeah, me too.
If you've got the money, you can actually, if you want to open a business, you could. You can purchase an ATM to have it delivered to you and set up. I can't remember the cost. It was a decent enough cost, but...
I'd imagine. But I guess you'd make it back in fees, right?
Well, the idea is then, let's say you owned a corner store. And that I'd love to see. A corner store can go ahead and put one of these ATMs in and have people come in and buy and sell Bitcoin at this store.
I think I might have a corner store that's perfect. I might actually set that up.
You know what? You'd get a lot of traffic from it just from the extra people wanting to come check it out. What is this Bitcoin? How do I use it? And even if you spend $10, like I said, just try it out. It doesn't kill you.
On that note, though, I think we're going to end this podcast. Thanks for listening, guys. That was really educational. Slightly dry, but I was stoned and I was just imagining, I'm in the money. But you guys have a great night, day, wherever you are. Take care.